Hello everyone and welcome to the Artist Spotlight with me, Simi Jackson, and my guest today, Liz STEEL. Liz is from Sydney in Australia, loves sketching. She shares all of her adventures through the art of sketching. Liz is very well travelled and has taught almost all over the world. I've been fortunate to meet Liz in Chicago. Rosemary's met Liz in Portugal and in Amsterdam, and of course we've welcomed Liz during one of her trips to Yorkshire and actually to our workshop. Liz is one of the leading urban sketchers, and I'm so grateful that we get to spend some time with her today. So I'd love to welcome Liz. There you go, Liz. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. It's great to see you, and I feel really honoured to be one of your guests on this show. And happy birthday for last week too.
Thank you very much. Do you know, you're my first person to speak to in my 30s, so it's all uphill from here. No, it's my pleasure to have you, and I know the time zones and time changes. It's 9 in the morning for me here, which is making it 8 in the evening just after for you, right? So the power of technology. We were just saying we love it and hate it, but this time we love it because it's working. So, Liz, I want to kick off just by thanking you for coming on and saying that, within your field, you've helped both my mum and I so much meet so many great painters and students, of course. I wanted to ask you, first of all, for people who don't know, how you got started in urban sketching. Tell me more.
Okay, so I'm actually an architect by profession, and as such I've got no art background whatsoever. I couldn't use a paintbrush, but I also always wanted to draw when I travelled, and I also drew a lot for my work as well. So even though we live in a digital age, I'm always drawing quick hand-drawn details that builders build things often, or like design drawing for clients. So it was really the desire to be able to go and travel Europe and sketch like a grand tour type of idea that was like why I wanted to start sketching. And then I discovered watercolour in a kit, which I'd never seen before, and I just knew that moment that's what I'd been looking for in my life. So I just found Everyday Matters group, Kathy Johnson, Danny Gregory online, started sketching, painting, and because I had to paint, the drawing would just happen as well. You know what I mean? If you set the bar higher, you actually you get to first base. And so I just started sharing my work online, and as soon as I started sharing, things happened. And then when Gabby Campanaro started Urban Sketches, I was just in the right place at the right time. He asked me to be a correspondent on their blog, which is a blog of people from all over the world that sketch their life out on location. And I just knew that day, I had this feeling that that was going to change my life. I don't know, I had no idea, but a couple of years after that, I just decided that the art side I had such a passion, such a love, so many amazing things happened when I took my book out and just started sketching on the streets and travel and everything, that I just decided to have 6 months off architecture, have a break, do a bit of teaching, and I never went back. So that's how many years ago now? That was the end of 2012. So 8 years ago, but almost to the day, I walked out of architecture job and we were like, I'm going to have a break and work out what I'm doing or what I'm going to do with myself. So and then Urban Sketches has been a huge part of that because just being part of this network of sketchers from around the world, I can travel nearly anywhere. And someone, I can contact someone or someone will know me or, it's just amazing.
Amazing. I've just got to ask you this though. How did you make the phone call to the office to say, that's it, I think I've finished this career? How does that happen?
It's called saying you want 6 months off. Right. And letting them get used to the idea and said, let's make a hard break. But maybe I'll come back and work a couple of days a week, 6 months on. And it took the director a little while to kind of come to terms with the fact that I wasn't coming back, after the 6 months. But I mean, it's interesting because when I told people, I've left my architecture, I'm having 6 months off, nearly everyone interpreted that as being oh, fantastic, you're going to be a full-time artist. And I was like, no, I'm just having 6 months off. But I just received such overwhelming support that this is the thing I should do. I didn't know how I was going to support myself or anything, but I just knew that there was just such a love of sketching and sharing my work and documenting my process and being out on location and connecting with people, that I just knew if I just kept working, something would happen. And then I started teaching and just absolutely love that. So that's, the way I was able to keep food on the table.
Do you know, can I ask you then, were you nervous about that transition from a regular income to then knowing that you were going to support yourself and not know when it was going to happen next? Or did you believe that it was always going to happen, or how did you deal with that?
Well, I suppose another piece that I don't make a big deal about it, but I actually had my jaw realigned at the time as well. So part of my leaving was to have a bit of a rest from a physical point of view. So that was, in a way, took the because otherwise it sounds like a crazy thing to do, but that was in a way, forced my hand to take the time. I thought, I just need a break. Yes, I was really scared. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had that fallback that I could always go back to my job, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. I had a safety net. But the thing was, as soon as I was free, things started coming into my lap, and it was then, up and down all the time. But just keep blogging about the experience, and eventually, finally, it all fell to pieces. Fell into place when I started teaching online, because my international connections was an audience is much bigger than local. No one knew me locally, but lots of Americans knew me. So that was when it was actually I can do this. 2 months in, 2 years in. I realised, no, actually this is it. I'm never going back to architecture. But for that 2-year period, it was very up and down. I just knew just got to live off my savings and see, what worked, what didn't work.
Am I right in thinking then you blogged about everything you could during that time to just ensure that people knew what you were doing, or what was the importance of the blogging?
So initially we started on Flickr in the days before Facebook, and I think it's because of my architectural background. For me, what does an architect do? They come up with a design, they do a drawing, and then they have to describe it to the client. So there's always that idea of a drawing, an artwork, and then description. And so for me, just it was just this discipline of I've done a sketch, I want to write about it, I want to talk about it, and so I just did it on my blog. So my blog had been going since about 2008. Quite a few years. In fact, I'm going through and updating it now, and I'm back in 2011. So it's just really fun to see the things I was talking about. So it was just an architect. I love talking about process and ideas. So it was one part of the piece. Of the sketch on itself it's got so much that was going on in my head at the same time. At the time, something happened. Someone came and talked to me. I just wanted to document it. So that's what I was doing before I left my architecture job, and that just continued.
I know that you say, and I've seen you paint, you're so quick, but I know that you say that it's not about achieving a masterpiece, it's about the sketch itself. Can you explain that more? Because in several fields that I work in amongst this field of urban sketching, it's all about the masterpiece. It's about the finished product that you can then sell. And it's a totally different thing for you. So talk us through that.
Yeah, I think it comes back to just that. The reason why I wanted to start sketching was more from an architectural point of view of travelling, seeing things, documenting it in order to be able to have a book of ideas. And there's this lovely quote from Luca Bizzier about once you draw something, it goes into your memory and it can come out again. So that was really the idea. I actually never wanted to be an artist. I just wanted to be an architect who could draw when she travelled, really. Right. And also my main love of sketching was when I was designing. So when you're designing, you're actually drawing very rapidly. You're not thinking about the line work. but like there's this kind of dialogue that's happening between, you know, eye and head and hand, and it's this spirit of discovery, like this moment of inspiration when you go, oh, I've got something, I'm learning, I'm exploring, and so that sense of flow, that feeling, is what I want to get when I'm sketching. I don't care about the end result. It's this feeling of flow that I want to be able to see something and then capture the essence on my page. And then the other idea, which is the one that really got me started sketching in a book, is this idea of creating a narrative of your life.
Right.
And so for me, I'm just trying to document something from every day in a visual way, write some notes. And so that's why for me the art was very personal. I might share it and like thousands of people might see it, but I'm basically only doing it for me. And if you ask me to do something on a loose sheet of paper, I kind of fall to pieces because I feel like, oh, this has to be good, this has to be for someone else. While for me it's just this, so it's a very different way of approaching art. And I mean, have I sold a few? There might be one or two pieces that I've sold in all these years, maybe. I just don't have anything against it. It's just, I don't know. It's just about being in the moment and capturing that moment and creating that memory of my life. That's the reason why I'm doing it.
So I guess my question then is, from there, like most painters would then hope to sell a piece, okay, I can ask it you quite bluntly. How do you then afford to live? What do you do then to bring some income in so that you have a roof over your head? It's teaching, right?
Yes. It's the only. I mean, I occasionally have done some architectural renderings. I've had some commissions. So actually, it was last year or the year before I did some, and I just thought, nah, you know, it's for the amount of work and the effort. It's not, and that my client was really happy, but like I put so much pressure on myself to do it. So it is basically teaching. So so I see myself as a teacher primarily. The art is what I teach, but yes.
Do you know, I think what's amazing, and I had this the other week, I interviewed a lady called Sadie Valerie who owns an atelier out in San Francisco, and fortunately for her, she was already online before the pandemic, but it's so interesting to see so many people now having to move onto online. And I firmly believe that even after the pandemic, we'll see people, you know, artists being on the road as well as being online and having a dual way of earning an income and teaching. But you'd already got all this set up before. Fortunately, thank God, you know, it was already there. So tell us about the process there of getting everything to be online and how you started that, because really in your area you were one of the first, I should think.
Yeah, well, I was really fortunate to be asked by Danny Gregory at Sketchbook School to be one of their teachers in, like, I think it was the second course of theirs. And because it was something I was on my radar to do. I had done some courses. Well, how I really got onto sharing my work online was through courses from Kathy Johnson as well. And they were just more PDFs, no video attached to them. But, you know, Danny then, you know, found a local film crew to come and film me, and it really opened me up saying, it's fine to be on video. I mean, I don't really like it, but like when I'm passionate about the message, I just have to get over the fact that I'm on video. And so it was really, I mean, I had been thinking about it for a couple of years, but it was just really, once I had gotten on camera for the first time, I thought, I can do this. And this is where my architecture background comes in, because like putting a course together, like, you know, the first couple of courses, I built the platform myself, I filmed myself, I edited, I did absolutely everything, I did support myself, the first course, everything. And it's just like an architect putting the documents together for a building. I use all of my project architecture skills to do that. And then you've then got to start thinking about, well, how do you run a business? What's your policies going to be? All kinds of things, which I just hadn't really, I'd kind of picked up in the workplace, but then just had to start thinking about that myself. But I love the way that I can connect with people from all over the world, you know. I think my very first course, one of the very first people to sign up was in Puerto Rico, and it was like 4 a.m. in the morning, and she'd stayed up to enroll first up, and it just like blows you away. I think, ow.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know that feeling, because I mean, it's not the same, but kind of comparable. I had a brush booth in Scottsdale in Arizona, and a lady once came to the booth and she'd driven 6 hours. And you know, when I was like, you know, I know we're good, but I didn't think we were that, I could have shipped, you know. And she just said, no, I really wanted to see him in person. And that to me she's probably one of my most memorable customers, because I just couldn't believe she'd made the trip. And it's really humbling when people make that kind of effort to tune in to you and what you're doing. I can well imagine you feeling blown away by that. But do you know, Liz, you shouldn't be shocked. Because I can well imagine now there's more people than you'd ever have dreamed of tuning into you in countries that you'd have never thought would have heard of you, you know.
Exactly. Sometimes I have to Google to work out exactly where some of the countries are.
Yeah, I know. We have the same thing when we ship to certain places, and we're like, where's that? Let's have a look. How did they hear about us? So tell us a bit then about how, I don't really want to touch on COVID, because we all know it's already depressing enough, but I do want to talk about how you travel so much, and you prepare for what you call grand tours. My first question on that one is, do you get nervous? Do you feel any apprehension before heading out for a big trip?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I suppose, you know, I'm nearly always travelling on my own. Well, I think, yeah, I've nearly always left Australia on my own. But I just know, I just know that, you know, I've just got to be careful of myself, and I don't know, I've got that real spirit, even though I'm kind of a homebody in some respects. Mm-hmm. I just love the freedom, and it is interesting that these days I travel, well, these days, you know, in recent years, yes. I've been traveling more and more with other sketchers and stuff. And it's always this moment of when I go off on my own, that it's like there's this moment of, oh, I'm on my own, I've got to look after myself. But then there's also this freedom of like, hey, it's just me and my sketchbook, and I just feel more connected to everything around me. So I don't know. And then that's the thing, the sketchbook helps you. Like, I'm no longer afraid to go and have dinner by myself, because I just sit and paint my food, right? And I mean, this is kind of the days before we all just looked on our smartphones. Yeah. But, you know, I would have people come and sit at the table next to me, buy me dinner, all kinds of things, just because I'm there doing something different. Yeah. That all of a sudden a sketchbook in a way gives me confidence. Yeah. Because it's like a travelling companion.
Yeah, that's how I feel with Max, by the way, my little dog. I would never have gone on some of the walks that I go on in Yorkshire on my own, because I think it looked strange. I didn't feel confident or comfortable. You get a little dog and you've got every excuse to go anywhere, because you've got to go for the dog. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you feel the same. So that being said then, I mean, can you talk us through a couple of your, this is a hard question, I'm sorry, but talk us through a couple of your favourite trips from wherever in the world. I know that's difficult.
Oh no! I think I have to say the thing that comes to mind is the one that's in. I've got to make sure I've got the year right. 2010, so 10 years ago, when I was still working as an architect, and so I worked in the same firm for so many years, like 15 years. I had all this long service leave, so I had 11 weeks to travel, and I went, and I was able to coincide it with the very first Urban Sketches Symposium, which I know you wanted to talk about later, but that then set me up to then travel across America, go to the UK. My sister lives in Scotland on the Isle of Lewis, and she just moved there, so I went to Lewis, and then I drove all the way down to Wales, down to London, and then across to Italy. Flew across to Italy and had 4 weeks in Italy. And I had a friend for 2 weeks of the Italy, but the rest of the time I was on my own. And it was just amazing. I mean, that was my, really big trip, sketching all the time. I filled 8 sketchbooks. The best part of that trip was the feeling I had when I was on the plane to come home, because it was like, wow, I've just had 11 weeks to work on my art and to like improve my particularly my hand-eye coordination and my drawing. I felt like I needed to come home and work on my painting because I got into a bit of a rut. But it's like I've had this amazing experience, and I'm coming home, and where am I coming? I'm coming to Sydney, Australia. You know, like it's not, the journey's not the end. It's like I've just passed. You know, I've just you know, warmed up, and like so that second day, the day after I got home, I went straight into the city and sketched the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, just as a kind of way of saying, hey, the travelling never needs to stop.
Never stop.
Because you know the world, you know, the city's so amazing. So. So that's one in particular. I mean, going to the Caribbean, teaching the Caribbean at the Urban Sketcher Symposium, going to Brazil for a symposium. I mean, places I never thought I would go. Cambodia with a bunch of friends. And then teaching in Italy as well. I mean, I have a number of books on this architect, Andrea Palladio, and I've actually written in one of the books on his villas. This is the closest I'll ever get to them, because I just never thought I'd get, because they're in the countryside. And then the last 3 years, I've actually been teaching workshops based around that area and like his architecture, but sketching based. And that's been like this amazing combination of all of my architecture and interest in architectural history and theory and sketching all combined together. Completely blows me away.
And then to boot, the gorgeous food that you get whilst you're there, I can imagine it's just what's not to love. What a accolade to you to say that you literally could teach all over the world. So have you had students follow you from places to places then and learn with you on multiple trips, or do they tend to just come on like one trip to Italy with you, or do they do the leg?
Well, I don't actually do a lot of different workshops around, but there have, like we've had two separate Palladian Odyssey tours, which is these Italy ones, and so there were basically the last year when we did the first time in Umbria. I don't know, 20 out of the 24 places were repeat people, so they do come back, and I see people at symposiums and everything, but I don't actually teach in person as much as a lot of other artists who teach do, mainly because the online component takes so much time and so much energy that it's hard to balance the two. But yes, I definitely see people over and over again. That's why this year it's like, I miss seeing you, I miss seeing so many people.
Do you know, that's what I was going to ask you, so you've kind of answered it there, but how have you found not travelling? Because can I just tell you quickly, when it first came out that we weren't going to travel, I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to spend X amount of time at home, and because like you, I travel a lot. But I never expected it to go on this long. I don't know why. I just thought, oh, well, by June, July, we'll be over this. And I was so wrong, obviously. And now I'm just beyond frustrated that we can't go anywhere. And how are you finding this?
Well, I've always thought for the last 4 years or something, particularly because I've been going to Italy and able to go and see my sister and her family in Scotland. I've just been like blown away with gratitude that I was able to do it. Sure. And I've been saying for years, it's like, wow, it's amazing I can do it at the moment. Something, like I don't know how long I'll be able to do it. So I've always had that sense that, wow, what an amazing opportunity I've had. In terms of like the pandemic, I was teaching going to be teaching in northern Italy, which is where it kind of started. So in a way, I mentally accepted that the travel wasn't going to happen before a lot of other people probably did. To be honest, just like to be at home and not to have to go away is a bit of a relief when you. I just have really long trips. Like last year was 14 weeks in Europe, so I'm away for 3 months at a time, and then I might do a few other trips. But I'm not like jumping backwards and forwards like you do all over the place. So to that extent, I just try and be content whatever situation I'm in. But I miss the people. I miss the food a bit, yes. I miss the people. And I also haven't really had the time to work on my own my own work this year. So that's the thing, when travel, that's why I travel on my own, because it's not a holiday, it's not a vacation. It's a time when it's me sketching non-stop, like all day, 6 days a week, filling book after book after book. And I just haven't done that this year. I've tried to go and sketch, and I've done quite a lot. I've done more at-home sketching than I've ever done before in my own suburb. But I just haven't had the time to devote to my own development this year.
I wanted to ask you then a couple of questions that students have, or just followers of yours have reached out and asked me to ask you. So one of them was, can you tell us what you did growing up? So I know we've touched on you being an architect. Was that always the route you were going to go down, or?
Yes, actually, I went when I was in later primary school, so how I'd be at 9, 10. I discovered there was such a thing as a floor plan, and I just decided to design houses before I was 10. And the funny thing is, my friend at school said, she said to me, she said, you can't be an architect, that's a man's job. Can you believe that? And I said, no, there's a book in the library, She's an Architect. It was like these books in the 70s about how, women can do everything, anything. So I've always wanted to be an architect. So that's, I don't know, what did I do growing up? I don't know, I wasn't drawing, but I was writing letters. So that's another thing, the idea of storytelling as well. So I had pen pals from all over the world. I did lots of sewing. Wanting to be an architect. So in fact, the hardest thing about leaving my job was this kind of guilt that I was potentially leaving my career behind, which I wanted to be all my life.
Oh, your life, yeah. Wow. I can't believe that, by the way, about the library book and feeling like it was a man's job. It's crazy to think now. It just wouldn't be thought of. But yeah, I can well imagine. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Another one is, how has sketching changed your life?
Well, apart from my career,
yeah.
In so many ways. I mean, I feel as if I don't know. I almost don't know how to say, but just the idea of going from someone who, I mean, if there's any architects watching, they know it's a very demanding job, very long hours. It's kind of creative, but like with a lot of technical side, and it's so easy for many young people these days to get so caught up in their work and not really, just spend the weekend, recovering. And sketching gave me something to do that was really creative, which I always did before. But I did it and not showed anyone. So once I started sharing online, I was doing something for myself, but then sharing and getting encouragement. And then just the idea of sketching on location, which is so important, it's the heart of urban sketches, is just the fact that you're actually out, you're sitting, the world's around you, people stop and talk to you. Like my local cafes and everything. If I just went and got a coffee, they'd say hello to me, but they wouldn't all, the other locals wouldn't know me and come and talk to me, and I try to sketch them and they laugh, and they, it's just a connection with people, and I think that sketching is just, made me do things that if you told me 20 years ago what I'd be doing now, I'd just say, impossible, cannot believe it, I don't know, and I think once you get over the idea that you have confidence in your art making and then you go, well, this is mine, that it flows onto other aspects of your life as well, and then you don't have to worry about what other people think. You go, well, I'm gonna do my best, and this is mine, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Do you know, I love speaking to you. I love hearing you talk, because I know how brilliant you are with a brush or a pen in your hand. And I'll never forget the first time I watched you paint, how quick you were. And I'm thinking, if any of my plein air friends saw how quick you could create a painting, they just wouldn't believe it. I remember when we went to Haworth, and my normal oil painting friends are taking 3 or 4 hours to do what you mastered in 10 minutes. It was just unbelievable. I wanted to ask you something that I know people have asked me in the past, which is how would you say that they could get started in this? Imagine that you've just stumbled across this interview. You've never heard of urban sketching. We're going to talk more about the movement in a minute, but how would you say to somebody that this is how you get going?
Well, you need a book. You don't need to stress about what type of book, and you need a pen, and you just need to start drawing very simple things and really learning the basics. And so there's kind of this myth going around that, oh, well, I hear so many people say, oh, sketching is easier than painting because, you know, it's just in a book and everything. I actually think sketching is harder because you've got no planning, you can't fix it, you know, you're there in the moment, you've got lots of distractions around it. So, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, that I think it's hard. I just think that that's, you know, like, it is hard to go out and sketch on location. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just go out and really, like, explore every moment. But really try and get the basis of, like, really how to draw from observation and really think about how to draw one edge after the other, because when you're drawing objects, it's much easier at home, it's much easier to draw something and go, oh, that looks like an apple, that looks like a banana. But when you go out on location, if you're not really well grounded in those basic drawing skills at home, then it's easy to become overwhelmed. And so that's my number one thing. And then get some colour, but not necessarily, don't feel like you have to master watercolour immediately. You know, maybe even get some watercolour pencils and a water brush or something simple so you can add some colour and start getting used to adding colour, and then just enjoy the journey. It's going to take time, but just that's part of it, and that's where if you can, like, that's why I think the power of a sketchbook and then like documenting your life is like, you know, I've got the last 12 years of my life filled in books. That's my narrative, and there's a lot of bad drawings in those books, but they're special to me because they capture moments.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, I know there won't be any bad drawings, but you think they're
no,
bad.
there are not. I've just actually looked through all my sketchbooks in the last month and a half because I'm filming a new course on designing sketchbook pages. So I have actually first-hand experience. I'm also going through my blog, and then I realised, hey, on the blog, there's some pages that I didn't make it to the blog. There's a lot of pages, the ones that are stuck together. Yeah, there's a lot of ugly sketches in my books.
What, as in you physically stuck the pages together? So
I just put a little bit of tape. Well, for the life of the sketchbook, if there's a page that really distresses me, I just put a tape there, so as I'm flicking through the pages while the book's active, I don't see it, but then I put it on the shelf, and then when I come back and take it out of the shelf and look at it, I take the tape off and look at it again once I've distanced myself by years from it. And it's never as bad as you think.
Right, that's a good little tip though, because it is certainly something that as you keep scrolling through, you're always going to dwell on the worst thing in a way, you know. By the way, I meant to ask you, have you got any of your sketchbooks at hand? Are any of them around?
There's like all kinds of things everywhere. I know, there's piles of them everywhere. Yeah.
So can you give us an example of the life of the particular sketchbook that you have in your hand there? So how did that come about? What made you?
It's interesting because this sketchbook has some from photos and some from life. So this actually, I was filming this for my new course in the cafe with like a camera over my shoulder. And the staff kept coming up and watching and interrupting me. And then this is a sketch of Flinders Street station in Melbourne, which I actually sketched because I heard some sad news. Oops, this way.
That's it.
I actually heard some sad news about some friends of mine, and so I did this sketch as a way of processing this news. So, and then I don't know. I haven't been sketching much.
Liz, quick question: how long would that sketch just then take you roughly?
Considering it's been filmed, it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, this is not a very exciting book. Like today, I worked in the cafe and had cake and coffee, so I just did that.
Wow.
But that's about. I'm not doing very much at the moment.
Can I ask a quick question? All the cakes and the coffees that you capture, can I honestly ask you, have you eaten every single one of those cakes along the time? Because they all look delicious.
Sometimes they're friends' cakes or we share.
Okay.
But yeah, like I've had two cakes. I had a cake today to celebrate a big project, a big milestone, and I had the pink donut, which is a paleo, very healthy donut, for the course. But normally I don't have much cake. But it's just that whenever I have cake, I sketch it. So it feels like that's all I eat.
No, I don't. And by the way, I'm not going to judge you if you said that you ate every cake that you've ever sketched, because I'd be like, wow, you've eaten some really delicious cakes over the years. So are you finding yourself then, is it something that you do every day religiously? You would be sketching every day, or are there times that you can't sketch?
There are times where I don't sketch. So I don't sketch on Sundays. So that's like one day every week that is completely free with church and other things. So that's like I sketch 6 days, but always one day break, which is a big thing for how I can keep going sketching. But I would like to sketch every day, and I would like to sketch something every day. But sometimes when like my workload's heavy, it's a little bit hard to do. Mm-hmm. But that's where I kind of got into this habit of sketching my morning coffee. Is just there's just something nice, and we haven't talked about brushes yet, about moving watercolour with this Dagger brush.
I don't know how you just pulled that out of nowhere. Where did that come from?
So it's just such a nice thing to start the day by moving watercolour around on a piece of paper with a brush. And so I draw coffee after coffee after coffee after coffee, but it's actually just this morning ritual. And so that then at least if all I sketch is one coffee a day, then that's. I mean, the funny thing is the local baristas go out of their way to do fancy patterns for me. I'm like, I don't need to. I'm just doing this as a ritual.
I can honestly imagine being a local barista and thinking, Liz Steele is in the house. We've got to make something impressionable so that she can paint it differently than all the others. And you're probably just thinking, I'm just okay with a flat white. It's fine.
Well, actually, that happened yesterday because one of the baristas that's fairly new, he actually came up to me and said, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't do the fancy patterns like the other guys. And I said, look, it's fine. A simple heart's my favourite because then I don't have to worry. Because, like, of course, they're painting with milk. Well, I've got to paint negatively around it and do it at a speed that my coffee doesn't get cold. That's the, like, this is, I've got this really funny thing. Is the difference between urban sketches and still life is that urban sketches got to make sure they consume the food, and it's even better if it's warm, right? Like if you let your food go cold because you're drawing it, for me that's just a failure. For me, I've got to be able to sketch enough, then eat, then go back to sketching, then finish off. You know, it's all hard. I won't waste good food for a sketch. Come on.
I'm with you. Hence why a cake doesn't go cold. It's always cold.
Exactly. And it's pretty, and that's why I'll more likely sketch a cake than I will other healthy things like sticks of celery and all the other stuff I eat as well.
Stick of celery's not quite as exciting though. You should have seen my birthday cake last week. It was layered, beautiful, different layers, and it would have made a beautiful painting. I'm telling you, and all like dribbly icing down the side. It was. I love a good cake. Okay, enough about cake. I'm going to ask you another question here. Okay. We've already touched on one of the questions was how you became a teacher, so I'm going to leave that one for now. Okay, this is a good one. Hi Liz, do you have a studio to paint in, or with you being an urban sketcher, do you need one? I think they're wondering if they need to have that space or whether that's really not paramount.
No, my studio is on the streets. My kit is in my bag. And one of the really interesting things about, March, April, May this year was when I actually emptied my bag of my kit, and my main kit became the one on my table. And that was like such a strange feeling for me to have my main supplies at home. So no, I live in a very small one-bedroom flat, and I live and work in a very small place. So I don't have any proper setup. I've just got a normal desk, and like I just have my palette. Just this is my studio palette, exactly the same as the one that's in my bag.
Yeah.
So yes, so no, I don't have a proper studio or anything. I just
Well,
I need more space for the computers.
Yeah, that's just saved someone a fortune, I'll tell you, because I think that's a fear though, isn't it? As you start to discover this hobby that could come into a career, and you start to look at people. I know if I looked at yourself, I'd think, wow, she must have the setup, she must have everything will be so professional, and it will be professional, but it'll be tailored to the fact that you can be on the road the minute that you want to be. It's daunting to start. I'm sure you've had students that have come on their first day with you, or that have joined up online, and they don't know what to expect to begin with. So how do you, this is a question I'm going to add to that, how do you calm somebody on their first experiences of this journey? What kind of advice can you give them?
My golden rule is that we share, we don't compare, because we don't know. I think a lot of fear comes from comparison, and the fact that we feel like, if we put something down on the page, people will judge us. But every single person has been there on the first line. So for me, it's all about really emphasizing the journey and saying, look, this is going to take time. You're going to do a lot of, you're going to put a lot of marks down the page that you wish you could take off, but it's fine. It's all yours. It's all part of that. Like, let's just enjoy being together and have a lot of fun and not take it too seriously. So I actually don't take art too serious. I'm kind of like a bit passionate about creating it. But if it doesn't work, that's fine. Just turn the page, have another go, And that's the thing about the sketchbook. It's just, if you're working in a sketchbook, there is a certain fear, because you think, if I do a bad page, but it's like, it's just a piece of paper. Turn the page, You don't have to build off it. That's one of the things as an architect that I just thought, like, hey, no one has to build off my drawings anymore. So I just complete freedom.
Sure.
But that's what I just try to kind of really get people to have a really positive mindset, because that's the most important thing, that you're actually really keen to learn. And that you can always have fun no matter what. But I mean, I know what it's like when you're at a workshop or whatever, and it just doesn't work. But
that's where I think I'd love you to talk a little bit then about not just workshops, but workshops with the urban sketcher movement. So where I've met you around the world and where my mum's met you. The buzz at those things is electric, because you've got so many people with the same. It's like our people are together, and you're thinking, we don't normally see so many people that love what we do, and we understand each other. And so tell me more about how, because I know that you are one of the first teachers that started the group, as in at the actual events. Am I correct? You've been...
No. I was just a participant. So
okay.
I think one of the the really special things about urban sketching is the fact that it started as this group blog of these people who were already doing it in different parts of the world, and we started sharing and bouncing ideas off each other, and really started getting to know each other's work and our voice through the written word on the blog, and then like a few groups started happening, but not very many, when the very first symposium in 2010 in Portland, Oregon happened. And it was quite small, but it was this amazing thing that we actually knew each other online, and then we met, and we'd known people's work, and we could hear their voice, and it was just... So it was this kind of idea that we already know people before we meet them, which has become more and more mainstream. But back then, I think that was really fairly groundbreaking, that, the fact that, I'd go places and go, hey, I'm here, and I'd meet up with some random guys that I've never met before, but I knew from online, And so it was that, and in fact, the very first Urban Sketcher Symposium was much more casual. It's more like guided sketchbooks. There was some teaching component in it, but it was more here. Let's all sketch together. That was, and I think that's the heart of it. Is it's not like there's the teachers and here are the students. It's like we all want to sketch together. And I think one of the special things about the symposium is that as a teacher, you often get other instructors in your workshops,
yeah.
and it's very flat, and that's what makes it very special.
Yeah.
And
you can watch how your fellow painters are doing what they're doing, but on a non-judgmental level. It's just a go out and paint, and it's actually in a place that the chances are you've not been before, like they haven't. I know that buzz, that excitement. I felt it the first time I was there. And then, of course, now they do involve more teaching, that you can sign up for workshops and you can go out and be led. And it's like 5 days, or I can't remember now. Is it 4 or 5 days worth of...
It's 4 days or 3 real days of workshops. And and huge. I don't know how many... there was like Porto was, I think there was like about 800 registration, and then there was like half of the city were sketches. It's really amazing. And you actually, that question someone else asked about how did I start teaching, it was through people in urban sketching who told me you should be sketching. You should be who told me I should be teaching. Sure. And I owe it to urban sketches to have given me opportunities and encouraged like a lot of amazing educators from around the world who've just been amazing support to me for the teaching side of things.
Well, I'll make sure. By the way, my window cleaner's here. You couldn't time this differently. Look, hang on. I'll see if it goes right round. I can't believe that that's just happened at the same time that I'm on the first floor of my house and the window cleaner's just rocked up. I'm going to make sure that this stays in the interview if I can.
Why not?
Yeah, that's just so funny. Hello. Do you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you about then is the online side of things that you do, and tell us about the different ways that you've managed to reach people, and how do you sign up, Liz? If I'd first heard of you here, what is it that you're offering on these? What can people expect? How much do you need to commit? And tell us more.
Okay, well, the first thing is you go to sketchingnow.com. So that's my platform, basically my school that I've built since 2014. Mm-hmm. And I initially started my very first course, Foundations. I basically grew out of the fact that I saw a lot of people when I was teaching locally who mm-hmm. didn't understand these core concepts, who didn't understand how to see objects as edges or see things as shapes. So I wanted a very systematic type of class where they could learn these things. And because I'm an architect, I approach art much more technical and conceptually. Mm-hmm. So it's not a demo based like a lot of art classes are. Here's the teacher does a piece and then you directly copy. I'm mm-hmm. trying to actually explain concepts. So there's a combination of pre-recorded video, examples from my sketchbooks, PDFs as well, and they go for 6 to 12 weeks. So they're kind of a bit of a commitment. And one of the things that I've really changed a lot this year is that I now do a lot of live streams. Mm-hmm. So I then do weekly live stream where I can answer people's questions and do quick demos, and they can chat to each other and stuff like that. So it is something that I'm aware that we're all very busy, but like if you really want to see development in your work, I really believe that you need to have a focused time when you go, right, this is what my focus is going to be. I'm going to really just go all in on this. Yeah. And so that's kind of the idea behind my courses. Yeah. So I've got drawing-based ones and painting-based ones, and there's always a component of sketching on location, like urban sketching, but I'm also aware of the fact that it's good to learn from objects at home and from photos as well. So it's a combination of everything.
So would you say then that you could learn right the way from architecture to objects and things? Are you doing different courses like that along the way, or is the one set theme throughout that you kind of develop over time?
Well, I do have a specific course for buildings because I think that sketching architecture is very specific and very, very technical. And I love teaching that because I combine my sketching with my architectural way of thinking. But a lot of my courses are concepts, and I show you how to do different objects. So I'll do landscapes as 1 week's exercise. So I'm not doing a landscape course, but I'll do a landscape, I'll do some food sketching, I'll do a teacup sketch, I'll do buildings, I'll do going out in the street, and all kinds of things. So so it's much more it's a broad course where you can apply this, because that's what I really want people to be able to not just copy me and get a good result once off. I want them to be able to understand the concepts and learn to be their own teacher, because no matter how many courses you do, the teacher can't always be there on your over your shoulder telling you what to do. And I really, want people to develop this habit of sketching and having this, positive critique of their own work, so that they can work out how to develop themselves and listen to their voice inside them as well. So so that's the kind of the main idea behind my courses.
I think a lot of people would pay good money to have you over their shoulder at all times.
I drive them nuts.
Okay, I'm gonna say now, let's talk a little bit about brushes, because when I first met you, you just couldn't believe that we were able to try and adapt and change things, and I don't know. Tell us the story of how you heard about our brushes.
Well, I had heard about Rosemary brushes for quite a number of years. I had a friend, Vivian Blackburn, in England, and then I was using round brushes, all kinds of different brands, but I never actually had a Rosemary brush. And then I was actually in Singapore, and I got a Holbein Dagger brush, which I couldn't find online. So I spent a year hiding it from every single photo I ever took because I didn't have a source for it.
Sure.
And then my great friend Jane Blundell here in Sydney said, why don't you ask Rosemary to see if they can make that Dagger brush for you, because I just fell in love with it. And that's the start of our beautiful friendship.
Yeah, I know, right? I know you've got the brush in your hands, so you should hold it up and show. This is the brush that Liz can't live without.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so Series 772 half-inch stable blend Dagger.
There you go. That's going to be on your gravestone at the top.
Series 772.
No, I was going to ask you though, and I know I've asked you in the past, but I want people to hear. As an urban sketcher, most folks are using the travel brushes that we do that pop into each other. But for you, it wasn't about that. I know that you use a toothbrush holder. Are you still using the toothbrush holder to store the brush?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I got that idea from my friend Chris Haldane. So I have to take the I actually just sharpen the length off a little bit so it fits in a toothbrush holder. But the travel. I mean, I've got some here. You have made the 3/8, is that the one in a travel? But it's just not big. It's not big enough for me. This size is just, it holds the right amount of pigment and water. It's just perfect.
So then I would say to you, is it a problem that you can't have a travel brush? Does the toothbrush holder just work just as well for you?
Yeah, it works well. So I have a bit of blue tack in the base, so that I sharpen it and it sticks in. So it works perfectly. I mean, it's not very bulky, and I can get one or two other brushes in there as well, small brushes as well. So it just frees me up from the travel brush, and no, it hasn't been a problem.
So for people who've never heard of a Dagger brush, what is it about that shape that you enjoy? What I know that you love it, but tell us why.
Yeah, okay. So the thing about the Dagger, I don't know if that makes it easy, is that it has a very fine point, which means I can draw with the tip quite a lot, and then I can easily just rotate it and then use the side of it to do big broad strokes. And in a way, when I use this brush, the way I hold it in my hand and the way I'm constantly twisting different things relates directly with the way I use a fountain pen and the Fude pen as well. I'm always changing my grip to get line, different variation in line. And so, yeah, and it just then makes so many expressive marks because it's shaped like a dagger and because the hairs are different lengths. When you then do a swipe with it, you get all these interesting areas of like, you know, dry brush to beads to you can get some really interesting textures, which is one of the really important parts of my work is that I want to be able to work quickly without having to wait for things to dry. So being able to have different washes with different areas in different states of dryness and wetness then enables me to be able to create texture really simply. And it just feels good, you know. And the funny thing is, like when I teach my foundations course and everything, it's like, no, I'm not going to use the Dagger brush. I'm going to use a round brush. And everyone still goes and buys the Dagger brush.
I certainly
have never told anyone to buy a Dagger brush. Never.
Well, you could have fooled me. I think it goes without saying that that's probably the brush that if you couldn't live without. But at the same time, are you saying then that there is an importance to have different shapes, or do you feel like once you master the Dagger, you've really pretty much can do what you need to do with that brush?
There's a few things that I can't do with the Dagger brush. So like if you wanted to do like big skies, I mean, I don't work traditionally, so I don't want to do nice smooth washes. You'd be much better with a big mop. So it can't do some of the traditional things. I also like to have either a rigger or the little fine one stroke, the finest one. Sometimes to draw some lines, some like finer lines, which I can do with a Dagger, but sometimes I just want to have a different brush for it. But seriously, I rarely use another brush. Like I'd love to get into using flats, but I can't draw with it. And that's the thing, is I'm often just going straight in paint, drawing with paint, then swiping the side to fill in the shape, and then drawing the next line, maybe picking up a pen. I haven't found anything that feels just as nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, question. I started going on about how much I love the Dagger.
I guess another question though that folks will wonder is, how do you look after it? So how are you cleaning it at the end of a session? Do you do anything on the weekends to try and give it a new lease of life? How do you know how long do you expect it to live?
I occasionally will clean it with some Old Masters soap. Is that what it is called? The brush soap. But generally I don't do very much. Before I started using the Dagger brush, I used to use a number 8 round with in some other brands, and I used to ruin them. I used to ruin the points in like a couple of months because I was like, when I was picking up paint, I was drilling down into the half pans, and that was really killing the point. But with the Dagger brush, because I pick up the paint along the side of it, I'm always kind of preserving the edge, and it does lose its razor sharp edge after a while, but then I feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So, I mean, I have these brushes for a year or so. I mean, I normally treat myself with a new brush once a year, or I got a new brush last year in Amsterdam because I lost it. Yeah, I don't do very much to my brushes. They're, I work them hard, really hard, and they do a good job for me.
Do you know, low maintenance is what we like, but we would get, if we didn't touch on brush cleaning, I know we'd get a lot of people ask, how's Liz cleaning her brushes? Have you ever tried, by the way, literally getting like a Petri dish or a little small plate and just filling it full of conditioner and leaving the brush just to soak in it over the weekend?
No, I've never done that. Okay.
That's something I'd say it would work well in, it works with synthetics, but it works better with natural hair. And with the 772 being a blend, I can almost guarantee if you use some sort of baby shampoo and then baby conditioner, leave it to soak in the conditioner, and it's kind of like a hair mask. Like us women are meant to do hair masks, but none of us ever do them. Kind of hair mask, and then if you wash it out on the Monday morning, the hair will just feel so supple and soft and conditioned. It should give the brush a new lease of life. try it. I mean, if it doesn't work, tell us. But I've tried it in the past and it's always worked for me. With synthetics, though, it's a little bit different because it's plastic, so there's only so much a conditioner will help. But another trick for synthetics, and you might already know this, Liz, but for anybody listening, is to boil the kettle, let it go just off of boiling, and hold the brush in there for 30 seconds to a minute, and it will help pull those fibres back together, and either make a sharper edge or make the point go back more conical. It's a quick fix. It might not give it a whole lease of life, but it'll certainly prolong the life. And you can do that with any synthetics, but not with natural. It doesn't work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a blend. So the sable blend is kind of the synthetic component of that. You can't really do much for.
No.
So you just got to look after the sable.
Yeah.
I have to get one of your full sables one day. I was going to get one, So it's like we just did this. We talked about doing it as a blend so that it's very economical and everything. But yeah, I mean, 100% natural. I mean, you can get so much more watercolor magic with natural hair than you can with the synthetics. Yeah. So one day.
Do you know what I'd say though? Over the years now, synthetics are becoming more popular for a whole heap of reasons. And we've actually just brought out, I don't think you've seen them yet, a red dot collection. We've called them the red dot collection. We brought them out 3 weeks ago, and it's 100% synthetic, but it's the imitation of Kolinsky sable. So I'm going to send you one of those. And we did them in a dagger shape. Not to replace what you're using now, but you might say, yeah, it feels kind of similar, especially for people, for vegans or people who don't want to use natural hair brushes. I think that it's a good halfway house for them, that it'll feel soft. It probably won't last as long as the 772 because natural hair wears down, whereas synthetic hair wears out. So the synthetic will start to go on you. But with that comes a price point. It will be a lower price point. So, but yeah, I'm going to send you one of those just after Christmas and see. And I know that you're desperate to try an eradicator as well.
I haven't got one. I haven't got the travel version.
Okay.
The eradicator comes from Chicago.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you started demonstrating how the eradicator works on my sketchbook?
Yes. I remember. I didn't know if you.
It helps tidy up edges. See this sketch of this? She was like, miss the edge. We can just tidy it up.
Sorry about that. I forgot about that.
No, it was cool. I'm completely fine. It was like my least favourite sketch in the whole sketchbook. So it was like good to be improved. Well, but I started painting with the eradicator last month, October, when I went to the beach. I did entire paintings with the eradicator.
Really?
And it was really fun to paint with. I got some really fun textures, like the foam texture of the brush by just moving it up and down. So I carried that eradicator from Chicago with me in my toothbrush container for years, since Chicago. I rarely use it, but I just sometimes it's good to because I just put skies on really quickly. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of a hard mark, and so the eradicator is just fantastic for just softening some of my. I like bad marks generally, but if sometimes I would just want to soften it, the eradicator does a great job for me.
Is there did you post a picture of the painting that you did with just the eradicator?
Yes, it's on my Instagram.
Right, can you send it me after this, and I'll repost it so that folks can see what you can achieve, because I think a lot of people would see it just as one purpose of a brush, and the fact that you've been able to do a painting with it would be, I think, really exciting to different to see that it can actually, you can paint with it, folks.
Yes.
know?
Yeah. I was a bit worried about damaging the surface of the paper though, with it though. But so I was trying to make sure I was gentle with it on the surface. But it does create. I mean, I've got quite a few friends who actually paint with it at times as well. So it gives you these beautiful textures. Really fun. It was just really, really, really fun to use. Do
you know, it's because of you and Jane and a couple of others, Shari. that are coming to us and saying you really need to think about doing this shape, or could you fix that shape up for us, make it bigger, make it smaller, that I've enjoyed. And I certainly, you know, where Mum usually would push lots of different brush ranges, one of the ranges I've pushed in the last probably 7 or 8 years is the travel brushes, and I've always wanted us to be able to say we've got the most travel brushes on the planet.
Absolutely.
And not just like, we're not talking about a 2, a 4, 6, 8, 10 in rounds. I'm talking about shapes, because I wanted to make it so that if you want to do something on the go, you have got no excuse that the brush wouldn't let you do it. So I've just really enjoyed. I mean, we now have 24 travel brushes. I know.
I'm out of date.
Well, what number are you up to? I bet you're about 20. But it's.
Well, what was the 3/8 dagger? What number is that? I've lost count of the numbers.
That's the R16.
Okay, so I think that's about, maybe, I don't know, what's the R17?
So that's a new one I just literally put out a couple of weeks ago, and you're going to kill me, but I'm going to just check it in the catalogue because I don't want to quote it wrong. But I think it was, it's definitely synthetic. The R17 is this one.
Okay.
See it?
Okay. So I go up to R16, or maybe not even. I mean, you made the R13 for me, which is the Sable Blend pointed one, which I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look it up. You're just out of control. It's great.
Well, and then the other one, recent. So I did them in synthetic to keep the price point down. So the R17, for example, is $11.75, which I think is a good price point for what you're getting. So I just wanted to finish off by winding up about travel brushes and saying, you know, I never could have dreamed that they would have grown and grown and grown and grown. And I'm always quite open to trying to see what the next shape is that we can put on the end of a travel brush. But, you know, one of the things that's limited us for so long is the actual cases, and the diameter of the cases. Then we managed to source a larger case, which then meant that the R16 was possible. But I haven't told you yet, we've sourced an even larger case. And I have the case on my desk at work. I'm at home right now. But do you know, the only thing, I'm going to try and limit expectations here and say, I don't know if between the 3/8 and then the 1/2 inch, it would probably be the size in between the two that would actually fit in a case. So don't be sad. But what I'll do is play around with it in the new year and see if there's any way we can make a brush that's slightly bigger than the 3/8 that would fit, just to make it that little bit bigger. Again, that I know that yourself especially, but people are looking for the largest possible shape. But it is also to do with the balance, that it could throw it off, you know. But I'm quite excited that next year I know that we can go larger on travel brushes. So watch this space. Now, I wanted to say something that I hope you would agree with here, but I thought that it would be fun that in the comments of this interview, I'd really love to give away 5 of the 772 1/2 inch daggers to some of the listeners, because I know how it changed how you were able to paint, and I know how much you love that brush. So I wanted to say, if people comment in the comments below on YouTube what they found interesting about this interview, or what they've taken away, or if just really that they've enjoyed watching yourself and I talk, Liz and I will pick a winner. I'm going to say, Liz, we'll pick it in the new year, and it'll go out in the new year, and we'll do free shipping to 5 winners, and we'll ship out a brush, and we'll select 5 lucky winners. The more comical the answer, usually the better. I know that you and I have more of a sense of humour like that. That the funnier it can be, the chances are we'll pick you. The
more you can ridicule me, the better, you know.
But don't make it personal. But yeah, no, I think that would be really fun for a couple of folks. I know it's something that if I as an urban sketcher received that brush and I'd never tried it, I'd be thinking, wow, this is a bit different, but I can certainly make some different marks here. So and not in the travel brush. Get used to the idea of going out and getting a toothbrush holder, sharpening down the end, getting some. I remember when I first saw it, and you just got a blob of blue tack at the bottom and you pop it in. I think that could be really fun for folks. So
actually, when you're talking about the shorter thing, when I was at home during March and April and May, when I went back sketching, the biggest change was the fact that I was actually using a proper brush with the right balance.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I was like, oh, this is short.
Yeah. Well, it'll feel it's. People don't understand that the wood on the end of that brush is there for a reason, and it does affect the balance of it. And you will have got used to having a shorter end that not only is it shorter in how you hold it in your hand, but it will feel lighter. Crazy, isn't it? Anyway, Liz, I'm going to let you go. I've kept you for way too long. I know that this is normally the time that you do live streams, so I'm going to make sure I post all the different links. I'm going to post a link to your materials list because I know that's something that we're going to get asked. I'm going to post a link below to all of your online teaching and things for people to see. And I'm also going to make sure I post a link to the Dagger brush that we discussed, so if anybody's interested in that. But, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, from Mum's heart, we're grateful for you, for all you do. I know that you tell everybody, and even if they're not interested, you'll tell them about us, and you've always been so supportive. And we're just grateful. You pinch yourself when I can say I've got a friend called Liz STEEL. She paints urban sketching, and she's actually pretty much one of the best in the world. Up there with like 3 or 4 others. I'm like, I can't believe she's my friend. So I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful that you took the time to come and talk today, because I hope I've introduced you to some new people, but you're also a familiar face for others. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's just, I feel the same way about you, that I'm actually friends with Simi and Rosemary, who make brushes for me. And, it's just so sad that I haven't seen you for a couple of years. And it's just been so wonderful to catch up and talk brushes. And, I'll do this anytime.
Do you know, I just
Give
want
me 4 hours.
Yeah, well, we should. I don't know if we'd bore everybody, but we should anyway. But do you know when the next Urban Sketchers Symposium is, or where, or have they not announced that yet?
No idea. No idea.
Okay. Well, watch this space, folks. I'll put a link on it at the bottom, and I know for a fact that either Mum or I will be there in person, and I'm 99% sure Liz will be there, and lots of other familiar faces, God willing that we can travel then, and we're healthy and safe to do so. So here's to the next time we get to meet, which who knows at this point when it'll be, but it'll be brilliant when we do. I can't wait.
Yes.
So thank you, Liz. Have a lovely afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Simi. Thank you so much. Take care.
You too, love.